First, I'd like to thank Muntu 2.0, who donated five, I think that's Australian dollars. Thank you very much. This happened during the live, and thank you. I also want to thank Science and Inspiration, who also donated $5 and wrote "Great job." Thank you for the US $5. And let's get into the video. So last time, he, Radio One, managed to convince these people that he actually knows way more about the subject than they do, and they sort of had a respect for him. But will their respect continue throughout the entire video? Let us see.
Are we talking about the Poomster? Or are we talking
The
about
one that he was just saying he made a video on what he was just talking about, a radio. What was the video called that you made?
Yes, it's called The Real African Ramesses, Not a European.
All right, I'm gonna grab that.
Yes.
I'm gonna grab that
Okay.
link.
And I made it like 10 years ago. It was a long time ago.
Ooh, 10 years.
But I showed on this video because the people who conducted this study tried to say that, because Ramesses, the mummy of Ramesses, have straight hair and has narrow features, that he was European.
So if we do the maths on that, this video is more than 7 years old. And then, of course, you add the fact that he said he added 10 years to the video. So it's a pretty long time ago when he uploaded that video. So what we're going to say here is this guy has at least done 12 years of research. I mean, he's done way longer than that, but at least 12 years of research, while these guys have just come in saying that they want to debate Egypt. So let's talk about Ramses II. First of all, let's talk about Ramses III. Ramses III is the one where they genetically found him to have African features. So already we have a closeness to this one, and he being described as having black DNA. So we'll return to the other Ramses. This is Ramses III, right? And Ramses III, as you can see, has got very similar features to that of the other Ramses. From the side, you can see the sort of narrow nose and all of this other stuff. But again, I will show you that his DNA, done by Zahi Hawass, shows that the DNA of this person lines up almost perfectly with a black African DNA. But we'll get back. This is another image of Ramses III. And again, one of the things that I like to highlight is that you can't get anything really from the mummies, because although they tried to salvage the form, there's a lot of work that's been done to sort of make it stick. Now, Ramses III had a son who was genetically related to him, and he was also part of the test. And his name is Pentawar, and Pentawar has his mummy as well, and the genetic test was consistent that he had E1B1A, which is a African DNA, and I will show it. I don't want to just say it. They call Pentawar's mummy the screaming mummy. As you can see, its mouth is open, and one of the reasons why this is possible is because Pentawari betrayed Ramses III and assassinated him, and then he got judged heavily and all this other stuff. But you can see here that Pentawari has got flaky hair, but I will show the one in color. Notice how it doesn't matter that Pentawari has black African DNA, dominant black African DNA. He still happens to have red hair. This red hair is not a result of having red hair in real life, but the mummification process and aging and oxidization. And of course, the hair stays intact. And it used to be more frizzy, but you can see it starting to smooth out, which is what you expect and what you see in Ramses II as well. But before we go to Ramses II, let's show the DNA of Pentaware and Ramses III. So the DNA is E1B1A, which must not be mistaken for E1B1B1A, because that one is a completely different DNA. But this one is E1B1A, and it's typically African. And not only is it typically African in reference to other places, but it's also typically African in reference to the very study that Zahi Hawass does. This is from the study of Zahi Hawass, and you can see sample number TT320CCCG61065, Ramses III, unknown man. Now, unknown man is thought to be Pentaware, the screaming mummy. Like I said again, we think it's him. We have no idea. We know that they're genetically related, though, Pentaware and Ramses, and this unknown man and Ramses III. And here, Zahi Hawass explains haplogroup E1B1A, the father-son pair of Ramses III and an unknown man / Pentaware, was found to have the haplogroup E1B1A, Hawass 2012, that shows its highest frequencies in modern populations from West Africa, 80%, Central Africa, 60%. It is less than 10% among North Africans and nearly absent in East Africans, which is where it was hypothesized to have originated. Alternatively, an earlier origin around 20,000 to 30,000 years BP was hypothesized in West Africa due to its high frequency and high diversity and frequency in the location, although the frequency of haplogroup E among contemporary Egyptians is 39.5%. That of the E1B1 subclade was only 1.4%. So you can see here that this haplogroup is very common amongst Black Africans. Now, to make things clear, Ramses III was not directly related to Ramses II genetically, and he used to be the vizier or the viceroy of Nubia. This might tell us that a lot of the people who were in charge of Nubia, who were from Egypt, who acted as soldiers, might themselves have been Nubian to make the Nubians feel comfortable with their rule. This is something that we can only speculate. Now, if we get back to Ramses the Second, we have no reason to conclude that this person doesn't go through the same thing that Ramses the Third went through or Pentuer went through, where their body and color changes due to the decay. But worse than that, the idea that from that mummy you could accurately come up with this, which is Ramses the Second, the idea that you could come up with this statue from just a mummy is ridiculous. And you have seen how they've recreated the mummy before, where they try to make it a white man. It looks nothing like the statues. And it's like, okay, but then why does it look nothing like the statues? Why does the hair color look nothing like the statues? I mean, Ramses the Second had black hair just like everybody else did in ancient Egypt.
Okay, and I showed on that video that you also had Africans that have the same features. Okay, people in Somalia, Ethiopia, they had features as the mummies of Ramesses and the rest of the mummies of the 18th dynasty. Okay, well, because they, yes, Ramesses II, yes. When you look at a lot of people,
he was of the 19th dynasty, though. Not
yeah, that's the 19th dynasty.
Okay, but we're talking about the 18th dynasty with regards to Nefertiti, right?
So again, she continues down the line of idiocy, where she literally was willing the conversation to go any direction, and then now he brings it back to Egypt and says, one dynasty off, by the way, says, let's talk about why Ramses looks the way he does. And then she's like, oh, let's go back to the exact thing that we needed to talk about when we came. It's like we've been in all directions. Now we can talk about some of the most famous people in ancient Egypt.
Or are we talking about something else entirely now?
Yes, I mean we still talking about Egypt, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
we're talking about
that's
Egypt.
the
but-
point. Okay, we can't just talk. We can't just focus on Nefertiti.
Well,
Because
my entire video had to do with Nefertiti, and then I made the broader point that Egypt is not monochromatically black, and it's not monochromatically white. It's diverse, right? Do you take issue with that?
Now, what do you mean by diverse?
Now, that's an interesting question. What do you mean by diverse? Because obviously, when you look at the ancient Egyptians, they portray themselves as looking quite similar to each other for a very long time. And they also portray themselves as looking different than the foreigners who surround them. And so to call them diverse is strange. Now, you could argue that they became diverse, but then they continued down the same path. So, for example, whatever Ethiopians or whatever group, but whatever group they became or whatever they were, they stayed that group for a pretty long time and consistently portrayed themselves as that group. So to call them diverse is a pretty strange thing. Now, diversity is different than plurality in being. Diversity means you have many people in your group and they represent a significant number of people. Plurality is a little different. But also, a lot of times when they say diversity in ancient Egypt, they're talking about multiple generations, which is not diversity, right? Just because the ones are Arab now and the ones in the earlier days are Nubian, that's not diversity. Those are two completely different generations, separated by thousands of years.
I mean, it's diverse, as in it's made up of a group of people who are kind of meshed together from various places of the world. That includes Nubia, that includes the Levant, that includes Greece, that includes Rome, that includes everywhere. So,
see, here's the second desperation that happened. So, ancient Egyptians, there's a chance that there was a lot of Middle Eastern DNA in there. There's a chance for that. But once you start including Greece and Rome and those places, first of all, those people didn't even become who they became until the Indo-Europeans came. The Greeks and the Romans did not become who they were until the Indo-Europeans came. So this is a very late thing that they became who they became. And so to say, oh, they came, no, that's not a thing. And then secondly, once you start including the Roman period and once you start including when the Macedonians were there and all this other stuff, you're including a pretty long, different time. Again, like I said, the thousands of years of span. No, we do not count those as diversity. That's like saying that the Native Americans, right? The lives of the Native Americans, America has always been diverse. How do we know? Because America started with Native Americans and now they've got black people and white people and Asians and all. It's like, well, that doesn't mean that America was diverse. That just modern America is diverse, but the older one was less diverse. It was mainly Native Americans. Now, of course, some people are going to play the game and be like, of course it was diverse because not all Native Americans are the same, which is like, okay, whatever. The key point here is that, and we've seen it with DNA, that the only two groups that are represented are Middle Eastern people from the very close part of the Middle East and Black Africans. Those are only two groups that are represented. There's no Europeans whatsoever. There were Europeans in Egypt. We've seen it with the Minoans trading in Egypt, but there's no representation for them at all as a group. There's no DNA representation for them at all as a group. Remember, there were people who were quoting the 2017 study wrong, saying that yes, they have Middle Eastern, they had Greek DNA because of the 2017 study, which didn't even say that. It said that they had Middle Eastern DNA with which Middle Eastern DNA to some degree, because its Caucasian DNA has a more closeness to Europeans than it has to sub-Saharan Africans. But that is different than saying that it's European DNA. And again, we're talking about a much later date, and we're also talking about one component of the DNA. I bet they still regret to this day revealing that Ramses III was a black African, because that one still sticks in them, because that's ancient Egypt. Ramses III is proper ancient Egypt, and Pentuer, and the fact that the way they treated him, like when he died, they didn't usually, if you're from a lineage that is not recognized in Egypt, they don't care if you go, when you go away, they celebrate. But the fact that they sort of glorified him and were like, oh my God, they killed the king and all of that, that shows how strongly they attached him and as a real pharaoh. And remember, Egypt was obsessed with the idea of you being a real pharaoh rather than some imposter. You want to know how I know? Because in some king lists, Tutankhamun and his entire family, Akhenaten and all of those who strayed away from the olden ways, they're not on king lists. You know, the Tutankhamun, which they came back with the results of R1B.
So
Do you take issue with
my question to that is, if the Egyptians were so mixed, okay, then why were they distinguished from everybody else?
why were okay? How exactly were they distinguished?
Because you I mean, okay, you trying to say that they were mixed, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm
But-
not saying that they were all the same color. I'm saying that they were diverse. And when you are diverse, you tend to have a mix of different skin colors as well. I mean, not
She's missing his point. His point is, if they were so diverse, how come everybody sort of knew what an Egyptian looked like in the past? How come everybody was like, that is an Egyptian, that is a Nubian, that is a Libyan, that is a Bedouin, that is an Israelite, that is a Syrian, that's an Assyrian? How come it was so easy for them to separate the Egyptians from all of these groups if they were just some, you know, Middle Eastern or even just some randomly diverse group? Now, obviously, the answer that she could give was perhaps because of this diversity, they formed a sort of, I guess the word that a lot of people like to use is mulatto, like a sort of race like that, and that separated them from everybody else, which again is not what a lot of white supremacists want to hear, that they had some black DNA, which is one of the conclusions that a lot of Egyptologists end up with. It's like it's a half black civilization, but if they lived in America, they'd just be considered black. Or if they were Ethiopian or any of this stuff.
everyone who is genotypically one race phenotypically presents as this other race. And when I'm saying this, I'm talking about people who are of mixed descent, who may be of African and European descent. They don't always present as dark skin colored. I mean, it's a give and take scenario. Genetics is kind of a fickle thing in that respect. You don't always get what you would expect to get. Sure, it might not happen all the time, but in some instances, it does change. For instance, my dad is about 2 to 3 shades darker than me, whereas my brother is 2 to 3 shades lighter than me. Does that make us not related? No, of course not. It's ridiculous to assume that.
A good speech, but it misses the point. The ancient Egyptians showed no variety in their art between different groups of people. Now, you can talk about how they represented females as light skin and depicted themselves as dark skin, which happened sometimes, but a lot of the times they depicted them both as the same skin color. But when it did happen, that is not diversity, because we all know that people of the same race generally have the same skin color, same hair texture, same all of that. And so that's not how race works, where women are white and men are black. That's just not how race works. And so she's just completely missing the point here. but I'm not surprised.
Mhm.
Okay, see, but the ancient Egyptians, they, I mean, pretty much according to them, okay. I mean, you can theorize it however you want to, okay, because we know that foreigners were brought into Egypt as slaves and servants, and they some of them may have dressed Egyptian, okay, because you have like for instance, foreigners that come over here to America, whether they be from India, okay, from China or wherever, they
Mhm.
come here, and they may have on their traditional clothes, but once they get here in America, they're going to be wearing regular jeans and t-shirt like everybody else. So so we're dealing with a group of people that were in Egypt, were not Egyptian. Okay, so you have
You're starting to break up, dude.
Asiatics, huh?
I can't exactly hear you. You're starting to break up.
So your internet just went a little bit more for a sec, but now it's fine. It seems like it's fine. And we
Hello,
got
can you hear me?
showing pictures as well. Yeah, we can hear you, man.
He was about to say an interesting point that the one thing that I already had said, but I think what's more important is that now they're starting to pull up some of the images of ancient Egypt, which is actually hilarious because you'll be surprised how many people have never seen ancient Egyptian images. Like they talk about ancient Egypt, and a lot of the images they've seen are from movies, they're from cartoons, they're from books and stuff like that, but they've never pulled up ancient Egyptian images. Like when you show people ancient Egyptian images, they're like, whoa, it looks like a black guy. But it's like, have you ever seen them before? Like how are you making so many assumptions about ancient Egypt and you've never even seen the images yourself? You've never even seen that they cut their hair short. You've never seen that they have extremely dark skin. Like they're not portraying themselves as like, we're kind of dark, but maybe not a lot. They portraying themselves as like extremely dark. Like there's something like they're burnt. They extremely the whole thing is weird, but we'll get back to that. And remember, they said steeped in darkness for Ethiopians. And I know a lot of you are going to be like, oh, yeah, steeped in darkness, Ethiopians. But remember, they used to claim that Ethiopians were not black too back in the day when they thought they could get away with it.
Okay, so you had people that were in Egypt that were not Egyptian, but they were dressed Egyptian and made Egyptian. But the Egyptians, I mean, they pretty much was going back to the tomb of Seti I. Okay,
Mhm.
that image from the tomb of Seti I, he is trying to tell you that this is what the Egyptians look like. Okay, everybody else
Is
was
that the
different.
image we're looking at?
Never a quiet moment. This guy was talking for like 30 seconds. No, it's not the image they're looking at. The tomb of Seti I is the one of the races that they were portraying. And yes, they showed that they had different races. Now, I do go by that recreation a little bit because I think it has a level of accuracy to it. I'm not saying it's 100% accurate, but it has a level of accuracy to it that is more useful than, I mean, some of these. It's like what exactly am I looking at here? Now, obviously, you can see the Nubian is steeped in darkness, and you can see the Asiatics in the back are somewhat pale in skin, and then you can see the Libyan with his feather on his head. The whole thing is pretty interesting.
On the
And
screen,
okay,
dude?
so right now we're looking at an image from the old video that Radio 1 is referring to, the video called Real African Ramses, Not a European. And it seems, I don't know to what extent this is a reconstitution, but it seems that I see Ramses here, or a representation of him, kind of mastering a white slave.
Oh.
So this is the part that I kind of like about this guy, even though he is wrong about everything else he says, is that when Radio One says just pull out the images, remember he's the one who pulled up the Kingdom of Kush as well and all these other places. So at least he's got the decency when someone gives him the evidence to go check it out. And this Ramses this is actually a real thing, and you can see that it's an engraving mixed painting, so it's not like some small thing. Like this is a real one, and this is the Battle of Khadijah or the Battle of Kadesh. The Battle of Kadesh, of course, being the famous battle between Ramses and the Hittites. And you can see here the Hittites being portrayed as a yellowy people, almost the same as what you would see normally depicting the females, and Ramses being depicted as extremely dark in color. Now, this is not always consistent, but it's at least true here that, I mean, you can look at the horse, for example. The horse is colored the same way that Ramses is colored in, and it's not always true that Asiatics are painted this yellow, but this is one of the colors that they are painted in. And of course, JF is surprised because he is mastering, as he says, a slave. Another part that he doesn't bring up, though, is that he's trampling an entire army of Asiatics. Now, we know that this was a sort of exaggeration because the Battle of Kadesh ended in a draw. It didn't end in victory for either the Hittites or the Egyptians. It's interesting that, in contrast, when you see them standing side by side, the Egyptians and the people of the Battle of Kadesh, the Hittites, they become so contrasted that there is no comparison really. And a lot of times when you see the Hittites, you start to realize that some of the Meshwesh, which are labeled as Libyans, are actually Hittites, but we'll get back to that another time, which is something I should have talked about when I was talking about the Libyans, that some of the people that we consider Libyans are just Hittites living in North Africa for a while.
And I'd have to ask
Yes.
where exactly this image was taken from.
Well, it came from I believe it came from a museum.
By the way, I want to contrast the difference between the reaction of JF and this girl. This girl has ultimate disagreement or ultimate skepticism towards the photo. Where was it taken from? Where did it come? It's an image from the museums, and you can see it here. It clearly shows the domination. And again, like I said, there's plenty of images of Asiatics been driven off, and not every single one of them is portrayed as this light skin, but most of them are.
You have some in the museum, and you had some that was in Karnak, and you had some that was in Abu Simbel.
Well, no, what I'm talking about, not museum-wise, but what dynasty, which tomb, stuff like that. Because we are, attempting to...
Wow, did you notice the silence that happened for a very long time while they were trying to load? Like, uh-oh, what the hell? Were we wrong about what we were saying? The silence just lasted for so long until she was like, okay, let me try and come up with something. And then when he said, where's it from? He's like, it's from a museum from, and then he starts listing the places. And then all of a sudden she's like, oh, no, I want to know what dynasty. It's Ramses. What dynasty do you think it was? You guys just mentioned it. Also, did you see the look on JF's face? I need to play that again. That made me laugh.
Because we are, attempting to determine what dynastic relevance here.
Okay, so
your arguments have circulated around various dynasties and how they were how they originated, or
what's that got to do with anything? You guys wanted a visual. He said he's going to pull up a video. He said he's going to show you visuals of Black Egyptians. And now he's shown you dark Black Egyptians, again, described many times by other people as Black. And he's going to show them in contrast to Asiatics. He did that. He pulled it up. This is a museum photo. This is not a Afrocentric carving. It's not none of that. It's a real image. And all of a sudden it's like, let's talk about anything except why aren't you reacting to the photo itself? Why aren't you saying, okay, why don't you believe that that person is Black? Why don't you believe that those Asians are Asians? Why don't you believe that this image is real? Give us the real interpretation, rather than running away and saying, oh, he's been talking about any dynasty. Now you want to just go anywhere. You're going to go anywhere to deny it, which is why this idea of multicultural and all of that is just a lie for stalling because she really wants to say, well, let me not say what she wants to say, but here's the evidence. You said it's multicultural, right? So what's the problem if you find a black pharaoh? That's just part of the multicultural. So it shouldn't be bumming you. It shouldn't be making you go, oh. And when they pulled it up, oh, that's my favorite. That's my thing that annoyed me about this one debate. The fact that Radio One's computer wasn't working, because if he showed multiple images, they would have sunk down to the floor.
Or maybe how they were influenced by outside influence. So it's kind of important that we know exactly when this image was propagated.
Yeah, it was in the 19th dynasty.
Okay. And
that was a dynasty from that originated in northern Egypt. See, that here's the problem. Okay, when you guys talk about Middle Eastern pharaohs and European pharaohs, you have to show the historical evidence that what dynasty, okay, which dynasty that these European or Middle Eastern pharaohs came from. Okay.
Notice how she's Googling hard because now she has to find out some other random information that she can run away to. She said what dynasty it is. He just told him the dynasty. She asked where's this from? He said museum. All questions have been answered. What was the point of asking those questions? Do you believe it or not? You need to react to it in a real way. Everybody else is quiet because they realize, like, yo, is this really, did we underestimate this guy?
Okay, because according to them, they were all native to Egypt.
All of the pharaohs?
Yes, from all the native Egyptian dynasties.
But with
okay, so when you talk about Middle Eastern, okay, Middle Eastern pharaohs or whatever, the closest you can get.
Again, what is that question? All of them? Didn't he say that the last native pharaoh was Nectanebo? Like, literally, yes, the native pharaohs were all native. And then there were people from outside. There were people who were king during the times of ancient Egypt, but those were not pharaohs. They were just kings from outside. And yes, they stylized themselves in the way that the pharaohs did, but that happens with all kings and queens from everywhere. Even Queen Elizabeth and all these people, they sort of portray themselves as the Queen of India and the Queen of Africa or whatever, but that does nothing. I mean, who the hell thinks of Queen Elizabeth as the Queen of Africa or the Queen of India?
To that is the Hyksos occupation of Egypt. Okay, other than that, there's no Middle Eastern about it.
Okay, so I'm not disputing you that there are native Egyptian dynasties. It's never been my issue. What am I?
Wait, what? You never disputed that they were what does native mean now? When he says native Egyptian, what does that mean now? Now that you've seen these images, it seems like she's now starting to float away from the idea that native Egyptians were something else, and now she's like, okay, if the native Egyptians were black, then let's move the goalpost to, I didn't say that the ones that I was talking about were native. Were we talking about them? Then you accept that the native Egyptians were black, and I guess conversation over, right? Is that what's happening? Are you throwing in the towel? Have you decided that you're going to now pretend that you meant that these people come from different areas? By the way, what she's going to say next is going to be one of the weirdest things you've ever heard. But here you go.
The issue was that, one, Egypt was diverse. The other one was that we don't know anything about Nefertiti with regards to where she came from, and also that she looked similar to the bust that was the original bust.
So she said three things there, and I want to address all three of them. The second one is the most ridiculous one. So first she says Egypt is diverse, and now you'll notice that she's saying it more and more than she did before, because of course, once you can prove there's black Africans in Egypt, all of a sudden it's like, no, it was diverse, which means nothing. You know, you ask the question, what does the word diverse mean? Do you mean there were like a line and there was like white people this side and black people this side? Are you saying they fused and formed a mulatto race, which we would call black people today? Like, what are you saying by diverse? What does that mean? But let's move on from that and go to the second one, which I hate. She said, we don't know where Nefertiti comes from Egypt. What do you mean we don't know where she comes from? And in fact, her family is thought to have come from the southern parts of Egypt. We know where Nefertiti comes from. If you're playing with the alternative theory, which is a ridiculous theory, that she comes from Asiatic origin, because a recent Asiatic origin, meaning that she herself is not Asian, then what does this debate have to do with ancient Egypt? There's a theory that Nefertiti and her family, well, Nefertiti herself, they assume come from a person who was from the Asiatic areas, and from the Asiatic areas whatever, something happened in Egypt, and that's one of the reasons they say they're not on the king's list. But the real reason they're probably not on the king's list is because they abandoned the real religion of the ancient Egyptians, which is why the father of Tutankhamun, well, the grandfather of Tutankhamun took over, and Tutankhamun went back on his name, Tutankhamun. Remember, Amun is the original name of that area of Egypt, Amun. His name was Tutankhaten, named after the Aten being the sun god, which Akhenaten worshipped, and basically gave that to his son. But his son was like, hell no, I'm going back to the old ways. And then he died early, suspiciously early, which some people speculate as well that it was the father that did that so that it can bring back the old religion. But if you believe that family was Asiatic and that they have nothing to do with the native Egyptians, then why are you bringing this in a conversation about ancient Egypt? You have to bring this with the context of, I believe that she is an Asian and she has nothing to do with the ancient Egyptian dynasties.
So I'm not disputing you that there were native Egyptian dynasties. Of course not. That's ridiculous. My claim is, one, Egyptian has been and will always be diverse because.
By the way, in debate speak, this is called gish galloping. She's just saying the same thing over and over again in order to draw time and to seem like she's got something to say. She literally has said the same thing over and over again. And you can see now she's honing in on that word diverse, because it's starting to look a lot different than what it was in the beginning, which, by the way, it's like one of the most obvious things. I mean, Sudan is right next to Egypt. Libya is right next to Egypt. We know the people of Libya and the people of Sudan are black. We've seen them. And they've been around for thousands of years. They represent the Nilo-Saharan regions. You can't even have the genetic understanding of people in Libya without having the Nilotic people. They've just been communicating and moving for thousands of years within that area. We know from the writings that some Nubians literally moved into Libya and were documented by the ancient Egyptians themselves. We know all of these facts. We are not talking about a small thing. We're talking about a huge thing. And you can see her just like, just wheel in the mud, just circling around the same 3 points now, because before she had a lot to say. Before she had a lot to say about diverse things. Now it's like, diversity.
Because of where it is positioned on the map. And two, that we don't know anything about Nefertiti. And that she very possibly could have been that light-skinned as the bust presented her.
So again, we've got 3 ridiculous statements again. 1, diversity. She brings it up again. 2, she says we don't know anything about Nefertiti. No, we know a lot about Nefertiti. We know that she's Egyptian. We know a lot about her history. We know a lot about her family. Her family is actually represented in a much longer thing. It's not just Nefertiti comes out of nowhere. We know the grandfather. We know the grandmother. We know all about the history of Nefertiti and her family. It's not like she's this standout person like, oh, where does she come from? No, we know all about her family tree. Well, we know a lot about her family tree, enough to know that she is a pure Egyptian. And alternative theories really don't make any impact at this moment. And then the third thing she says is,
and that she very possibly could have been that light-skinned as the bust presented her.
now it was important for me to replay that because I want you to notice the softening of the language. Now, if you guys don't know, there's something called shell shock, which today, I forgot what the name is today, but this is what happens when you get like stunned in war and stuff, and then you sort of freeze up. And what's basically happening here, and you'll hear the difference. Now, remember earlier when she was talking about Nefertiti and the bust and everything like that, she was so sure that that bust was an accurate representation of Nefertiti. She was 100% sure. She was like, the bust of Nefertiti is according to archaeologists, the closest 100% representation of Nefertiti, the way she looked like. Now, after looking at these images, she like, it could have looked like what the bust could have. What do you mean could have? If the bust's real, then you should just say she looked like the bust. What do you mean it could have possibly looked like the bust? The softening of the language is because of, I mean, the Bible says this before, all you need is to plant the seed of doubt. All that happened was now he put that in there. And by the way, if we look at images of Nefertiti, you will see. So I'll ask again, right? The bust of Nefertiti, let's say it's real. Let's say it represents the real one. Then what was this guy here doing when he portrayed Nefertiti? What was he doing? Like, why would he portray her this brown? Was he just lying? I mean, we know in ancient Egypt, a lot of times they portray the woman as yellow. It wouldn't have been very difficult to portray her as yellow. And what about this image here, where he portrays her as the same skin color as her husband? Is this also another fabrication? And the only real one is that mummy or that bust that you said was the most 100% accurate representation of Nefertiti? Or is doubt slowly creeping in because you did not know that there is so much evidence that contradicts what you're saying? And again, I'll come back to the androgyny of these images of the Amarna period. This is from the Amarna period. This is either Nefertiti or Akhenaten. We actually have no idea. And the reason why is because of the androgyny that came at this era. I mean, you can see that even Akhenaten had a pot belly and he looked like he had female chest areas. And yes, there's a certain level of portraying humans how they are rather than the ideal, having the ideal male body versus the ideal female body. But somehow Nefertiti's bust is perfect, even though everybody else is being portrayed with flaws. Everybody's in that era is being portrayed with flaws. There's this one person where they're like, no, do us perfectly in this one area. And then they have the nerve to say the reason why it has some features that look different than what you would expect in Egypt is because of the new style. The new style was not to portray somebody as perfect. That was the new style. I mean, look at the neck area of this person, and look at the chin. The chin is sticking out. The cheeks are sort of high a little bit. Like, this person looks kind of a little crazy. You can see on the neck that there's a little bit of fat that's being portrayed. Like this line area, like, okay, he's got two lines on the neck. You can imagine how the artist might have been a little bit frustrated by the fact that, or maybe even they might have been a little bit happy to portray reality as artists, but you could tell there's a little bit of frustration or not. And that's the cool part about ancient Egypt, that we can get this deep into the art of the people. But for some reason, some people go, no, The bust is the most 100% most accurate representation. Come on.
So I'm
Well,
still waiting for that image of Nefertiti that you have said she looks mahogany skin and thick lipped.
That's what I'm saying, that it's actually pretty annoying that his computer isn't working that well, because he would have easily presented it and it would have shocked them again.
yeah, I'm gonna get it. Let me see here.
Okay.
Oh man.
All right. Well,
See. Yeah, I'm trying to pull up these images, but I'm having a hard time.
Yeah, cool.
I'm
So
not
just give me a
like
second.
nothing is working on my internet.
at 1488. Why has thug or rap culture dominated black culture? Martin Luther King was a very respectable Christian conservative man. How did Tupac and such become the aesthetic of black culture?
Okay, so notice how there's a hard pivot now from what we were seeing before. So they were talking about ancient Egypt and how things worked there, and the girl was so interested in staying on topic that she didn't even want to change dynasties. So she should jump in now and say, what's this got to do with the topic at hand? I mean, there's obvious answers for this. First of all, let's be honest. Most people respect Martin Luther King as a political leader way more than they respect Tupac as a political leader. So let's not even do that. I mean, you can quote just about a lot of things that Martin Luther King said in regards to politics, whereas in regards to rap and stuff, you can quote Tupac, but not in terms of politics. He's not a political leader in the same way. But what's that got to do with what they were talking about? They're trying to run away as fast as they can and just move. All of a sudden, it's like, hey, let's talk about Egypt for a while. Oh, we're losing. Let's go back to generic why are black people bad topic.
Was that an uncomfortable question?
Tupac.
Yeah, no, he's saying Martin Luther King was a respectable Christian and conservative man. How did Tupac or those like types of role models become the aesthetic for black culture? His question is, why is thug or rap culture dominated black culture?
By the way, quote unquote rap or thug culture, which is not the same thing. Rap culture has not just dominated the black culture. The reason why these people even know what rap is because it's dominated the white culture too. But let's be honest, like if you go to like the 90s, you have R&B, which was huge. Then you also have pop, which was also huge, that was done by black people too. You can find all these genres which they did. So yes, rap did dominate in a way, but it still remained a subgroup or a subgenre to some degree compared to the other things that were there. And then when it hit, I mean, people like Eminem and stuff like that became huge. So it's not like some thug culture or whatever, especially since he appealed way more to white people than he did to black people. Look at all the other different people. I mean, there's all different types of rap. There's conscious rap. There's all this other stuff. And it all of them have had their time. All of them have had their growth or whatever. I mean, I would say 50 Cent was more pop rap than he was thug rap. I mean, sure, he had some parts of it that were sort of in that line, but most of it was just girl music and introspective music or whatever you want to call it. And of course, Tupac was exactly the same. I mean, California Loves Other Party. I mean, does that sound like a thug song? But again, just moving the goalposts so that we can talk about a generic topic. No one's going to bring it back to the center, of course, because that's not what's important when it comes to that topic. When it comes to the topic of degrading black people, that's very important. And then when it comes to changing dynasties a little bit so you can prove your point, no.
Well, I think Tupac has more to do with this younger generation. Martin Luther King, the older generation identify with him more. So it's like the younger generation were not living during the time of Martin Luther King, so they have a hard time, identifying that. But you have some respectable, black youth that look up to Martin Luther King and and wish to follow in the footsteps of Martin Luther King. Okay, but but
Okay, so let me address this since he's already addressing it. This is like asking why have the white community stopped praising Jesus and started praising Taylor Swift? Why are they following in the footsteps of Taylor Swift rather than following in the footsteps or pick some other person in the 60s who was important? Like, why are they following down this person? Why are they following Taylor Swift and not some respectable person or whatever? It's like the person, whoever's famous, it doesn't mean that everybody's like following their whole line. It's just a famous person. Like, even if you talk about Tupac, what was his political thing? Like, do they even know what his political movement was? I mean, I know that he at least aligned with the Black Panthers. I know that he was for Black consciousness. He was for saving the world and stuff like that. So do they know that that's what the political side of him was like when they talk about the politics? Think about how offensive that conversation would be in another way. Like, I mean, I can't think of a huge, great white person who people used to follow from back in the day, but imagine saying, why don't they follow that person anymore? Follow the example of that leader, and then say they're following Taylor Swift just because a lot of people sort of like her. And the fact that she happens to be part of your race.
the young okay, so I say the young black people that's in the hood today, okay, they identify more with Tupac, okay, because Tupac was just like them. So they I guess they look up to him more because they can see themselves more and they identify with him more because in Tupac, I listened to his music and he had a lot of he spoke a lot of truth.
They don't want to hear that part. They're not interested in that part. He's just a thug, right? According to them, a guy who's just doing thug stuff. It's not like that part is mainly entertainment, and there's also like signs of contradiction in the guy's life.
No, I mean, but I don't agree with him being a thug, but I mean, but you have some people who are thugs, but they got good, they got a good heart as well. I know some. Okay, I mean, but it's not just about being a thug. It's about your spirit. What kind of spirit you have. You're either you're a good person or you're low down dirty person or you're not. I mean, or or you're a good person or you're a bad person. It has nothing to do with being a thug, because I know some thugs that are cool. They cool with me. They
As well as he's answering the question, I still have this question to ask, which is, who cares? What's this got to do with anything? Also, who people follow. I mean, there's a question about like why would the white community follow someone like Donald Trump, who, I mean, if there was ever a thug,
they treat me good. They treat me like their brother. And I know some thugs that are low down and dirty, and okay, and they nasty, okay, and I don't get along with some of them. Okay, so it's not about being a thug. It's about the spirit of the person. So, I mean, I would say that the younger generation today, they identify more with Tupac. Now, if Martin Luther King was alive today, okay, and he was reaching out to the young people, okay, then maybe they will identify with him more. But unfortunately, he passed away. He's not with us anymore. So, but Tupac was there, to reach out to the young people, and and because of that, they look more up to Tupac.
Cool. Oh, and
well, I'm glad they don't disagree. I thought they were going to sit there and argue about it for a while. I'm glad they just sat down and listened, because that would have been a real boring conversation. Which, by the way, there's thousands of those. Oh, why the police this? Why that? Why this?
Brian, Polito, $20. The U.S. bought Libya or Liberia for blacks who want to separate. Is that true? Does anyone know about that? JF?
Sorry, can you repeat? I was
Yeah.
reading another super chat.
Oh, O'Brien Polito, $20. The U.S. bought Liberia for blacks who wanted to separate.
So again, this is another generic black conversation, but yes, Liberia was an area where they shipped a lot of African Americans back to Africa. You can't say they bought Liberia. Liberia had people already, and so they basically did their little corruption thing, and then they took over parts of Liberia and then sent people back to Liberia. Well, not back, because you can't go back to where you never were from. Slaves were never taken from Liberia. They were taken from other places. Not that they were never taken from Liberia, but Liberia wasn't the typical area. And of course, when the African Americans, some of them African American slaves, when they got back, they started enslaving some of the natives of Liberia. And so things got bad there. The person is making a generic conversation point about another random area of the world. And of course, Liberia came into disaster, and we all know what happened with all the wars that would eventually happen, leading to one of the most, they used to call it World War III, one of the most devastating wars in Africa. There's a book on the early days of Liberia of Americans living amongst Liberian Americans who were in Liberia that I read, but this has nothing to do with this conversation.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I just got Estes, $20. Does this fool know that geneticists recently found out that modern Egyptians have Middle Eastern ancestry? Nubians didn't integrate until after the height of their power. Genes don't magically change in a short time frame.
I know Radio 1 is probably going to respond to this, but let me first start by saying modern Egyptians have Black African DNA, so that question is pointless. Which is why, by the way, one of the excuses they use whenever there's Black DNA in ancient Egyptians, they go, well, we see Black DNA in Egyptians today, modern Egyptians. And it's like, yeah, but you guys claim that came later. So if it came later, what does that have to do with ancient Egyptians?
Someone's trying to call you out there, Jessica Estes. What do you say about that? Hey. Oh, hello? Yeah. Sorry. Someone just said that geneticists recently found out that modern Egyptians have Middle Eastern ancestry. Nubians didn't integrate until after the height of their power. Genes don't magically change in a short time frame.
Okay, now, did this fool actually took the time out to read Egyptian history? Okay, now the reason why they have Middle Eastern DNA is because the Arab conquest took place in 640 AD. Okay, that's where most of the Middle Eastern DNA comes from in modern Egyptians.
Yeah. All right, and
I love how the tone has changed dramatically. There's something that's just changed about the way they were communicating earlier and how they're communicating now. There's a lot of silence, a lot less trolling, a lot less of repeating, okay, when the guy is talking. Everything is seeming to go a very different direction. And I wonder why.
Any other good ones for now? And then let me see. Well, D1 Bucks threw $5 to say props to Radio for coming into what I'm sure felt like a hostile environment. More balls than most. Yeah, man. Respects. Appreciate.
Now their fans are turning. Now their fans are starting to show favor to him, which this is the second time when he mentioned that ethno-state thing, they also liked him.
Get it.
Jessica Estes also sends a second super chat, $5 US. Why can't you celebrate the Bali dynasty? They were amazingly well off back then. Stop appropriating others' cultures.
What was the question again?
He's accusing you of appropriating other cultures by refusing to celebrate the Bali dynasty. The Bali.
Break the Bali dynasty.
Yeah.
That's probably some alt-right meme that other people have a conversation about. I have no idea what he's talking about right now. What the hell is a Bali dynasty?
Mhm.
What is break the Bali dynasty?
The Bali, 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 Bailey.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know about this dynasty?
I have no idea.
Okay. Well, she was sending a specific super chat about this, so we can skip that.
Yeah.
And yeah, all right. And yeah, I think we're headed toward the reading the super chats.
Yeah.
Hello?
Do you guys? Yeah. So, Weibo, is there anything else? Any other contentions that you have with radio? Before we do our final thoughts and move on to our post show, and then we'll ask radio if he has any questions to you, and then we can move on to final thoughts. Jeff, what do you think?
The one thing that I appreciate the most about Radio 1 is the fact that even though he was being trolled hard, even though he could have came in harder, even though he could have did whatever, he remained looking like the good guy in the entire conversation because he refused to go lower than they did. He went pretty low, but he remained at the top so that he didn't go any lower, so that he can remain at the top and be able to criticize them and make them feel bad for their decisions. And of course, remain, even though there was 3 of them talking at once, he still was a good sport in letting them talk, even though they didn't do that to him. And this is why this is an example of somebody who is smart, well-learned, and a good character defeating, I mean, the guy said it, one of the super chatters, a hostile environment. Guy says what felt like a hostile, that was a hostile environment.
Yeah, let's do that.
It's been a great stream so far, but we will go ahead.
I still kind of want to see that image that he says is Nefertiti's true image, because if it's the image that I'm thinking of, it'd make for a very interesting revelation. Do you mind if I pull one up that I might think that he's referencing?
Oh, I remember this part. This is where she tries to trap him by pulling up a picture of someone who's not Nefertiti and thinks that Radio 1 won't know. So here's where she didn't learn. Radio 1 is very learned on ancient Egypt. And she's like, oh, this is going to pull up a very interesting revelation when he sees this picture. Let's pull it up and see what's going to happen. Well, let's pull it up and see what's going to happen. Let's see how fast your Googling is versus his knowledge, which, by the way, is 10 years worth of ancient Egyptian knowledge.
Because I have one in mind.
Oh, and people are asking why is there a couple uploads on my channel now? I just unprivated a few older videos just because the strike is gone. But yeah,
is this the image you're talking about, Radio?
Actually, that's not Nefertiti. That's Queen Nefertari, the wife of Ramesses.
Good. That's what I hoped you would say.
Oh, that's what you hoped he would say. Did you try to trap him by pulling out Nefertari? Try to trap him by pulling out Nefertari and then saying that if he says, yes, this is the image, then it will be a great revelation, because you thought you could trap it with this one little thing. Like, oh, even if he said yes to this, by the way, it wouldn't have been that big a deal that what he thinks one image is different than another. But isn't it interesting that she was trying to go in, and then now she's like, oh, that's what I thought. It was like, oh, my trap fell flat on the floor and didn't turn out the way that I thought it was going to go. So, okay, so if that's what he thought he was going to say, what else are you going to say about this? What was the point of pulling it up then? Okay, you thought that's what he's going to say, so what's the revelation?
Because someone has actually made that argument to me. You know, I was wondering.
Is it this one?
Is it?
Do they not know how to spell Nefertiti? Now they're pulling up Amos Nefertari. Why are they pulling up Amos Nefertari? They're like, oh, is it this one? Is it this one? No, Nefertiti. Easy to spell, easy to find. It's all over the internet. There's plenty of these images. By the way, where's the revelation? Someone has made that argument to me before. Who? Who is this somebody you just made up who made that argument to you before?
That one, radio.
Let's see. I can't see it.
Look at the at our
Hey, can you
group chat.
present the screen?
I'm presenting.
By the way, notice how many queens they've pulled up. Almost every queen you can pull up in ancient Egypt who ruled is that color, by the way. Black or brown. Almost every single one that ruled at one point is that color. They're not even considering the fact that they're pulling up all these queens that are clearly black. That one is jet black too. Amos Nefertari is literally black.
Jean Français.
Is it this one? Very black skin Nefertiti's?
What did he say? Very black skin what?
One very black skin Nefertiti's?
This whole thing has gotten to the point now they're just Googling black skin pharaohs. I wonder if JF is part of the trap, or is this something that the girl was doing and now they're just pulling out names. By the way, where's the revelation? I'm still waiting for this revelation. It said, if I pull this one up, then you will see a revelation. So what's the revelation? Because she said that's what I thought you were going to say.
Do you see that one right there?
I still can't see it.
Open up our chat, our group chat.
Oh yeah, that one.
Yeah.
That's
That's not Nefertiti. That's almost Nefertari of the 18th dynasty, the wife of Amos, Amos the first. Yeah, that's not Nefertiti.
It's funny that she tried to trap him with something like that. I bet you she didn't even know any of the information that he just provided right now about Amos Nefertari. By the way, Amos Nefertari is one of the least known queens of Egypt because, of course, she must be one of the most interesting looking ones. If you think about it, she's literally jet black. She's not covered in brown. There's no ambiguity, just literally jet black. But if she had red hair or if she had blonde hair, she'd be all over the news. I promise you that. If she had red hair, if she had blonde hair, if she had any of that stuff, she'd be all over the news. They'd be like, oh, this person is like the serious individual, shows the diversity of Egypt, all of that. But you find this dark-skinned black person, they're like, throw that in the trash, or let's not talk about that.
See here.
I have a few other
Okay.
images.
Guys, look for those.
I think I posted up an image. Let's see if
Okay.
Oh, okay. We have the link on the chat.
There it
Let's
is.
Try to see.
Yeah, let me try and open that. There we go. Okay. Jeff, do you want to present that? And I'll present your screen. There we go.
So yeah, that would be that's the image we've been talking about.
Unfortunately, the image that he shows is a much more degraded version of this one. I mean, it's not the exact same image, but you can see that it's the same exact people. And you can also see the exaggerated facial features.
About for the whole stream.
Okay.
yes. Now that is Nefertiti. Okay, and
That's
she's
Mahogany.
she's standing. Okay, she's standing right behind her husband, which is Pharaoh Akhenaten. Okay, and we can see on that image that she has full lips, and she has a different, more African-like nose.
Okay, so
Okay.
are you saying that facial features are 100% definitive determinants of what one's race is?
Oh my God. So now he pulls out an image where the facial features look like a black person. And now she's like, oh, does facial features now determine race? I mean, you said that about the bust. You said that it was the most accurate picture of somebody's pic. And by the way, yes, facial features do determine somebody's race. Like a lot of people, unless you're mixed race, most people you can tell what race they are by their facial features.
Yeah, the
people are-
timer.
If she-
So wait,
I
but
mean,
you're
if she's
telling-
straight,
What I'm saying is to insinuate that we can definitively determine based on a carving from a wall a person's race based on their nose and their lip shape. It's a little bit, I don't know, race.
Yeah, I think because
She was about to say it's a little bit racist to determine someone's facial features from a wall carving, which, you know, I can understand that point. I can understand that you should probably not stereotype people and grab carvings from walls and say this person's race is this based on wall carvings. So then let's pull up a specific image so that we can test that theory. So this is a wall carving, obviously from the Greco-Roman period, and I can tell that this is a white person just by looking at the wall carving. This is a Ming Dynasty wall carving, and I can tell that these people are Chinese by looking at the wall carving. It's pretty obvious. This is a Native American wall carving. I can tell that this person is either Aztec or Mayan just by looking at the wall carving. Now, is that racist? No. There's a reason why the Middle Eastern, Asian, Indian, all those places have obvious look to it that it's consistent. And then when it comes to Egypt, it just breaks down.
are you trying to say like basically there are women of different races who have full lips?
Yeah, of course. I mean,
Yeah.
I could think of don't Jewish women have like a tendency to have a really big nose as well?
Jesus Christ. How can you accuse someone of having of being racist and then within like 10 seconds of that you're throwing out racist stereotypes about Jewish people? That was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's that. And then you can't.
By the way, what's that got to do with having full lips?
Just again group people together based on what you think is the general. It's not going to completely be the same in all aspects.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, but here's my question: why did she tell him to bring it up if she's gonna just deny it as soon as it pops up on camera? Like, what was the point of that? She's gonna be like, oh yeah, bring up this Nefertiti that you said looks like a black person and is different than the bust. He brings it up. Now she's like, no, you can't just use that. It's like, what do you mean? It doesn't look like the bust. Look at it. The bust of Nefertiti has a much more longer nose. It doesn't have full lips. It looks like a European general aesthetic, whereas this one looks like an African general aesthetic. They look like two completely different people. Which artist was wrong?
But you said that she had mahogany skin color as well.
Yes.
You also said that in the comments section.
Yes, there is an image like that, but I'm having it to you. Yes, on just about every images. Okay, they have scattered images of Nefertiti looking like this on every image. Okay,
this is a colorless image of a woman.
The image of a woman with full lips. Okay, I mean she.
Notice how her confidence is returned again, and now she's like, "Oh, this is a colorless image of a woman." He just said there's a one with color, but he's having a hard time pulling up images. So you're playing a game right now where you're gonna be like, "Oh, where's the one with color?" And like I said, I'm showing it on screen because obviously, yeah. And again, if it's the era, the time, the Amarna period, here's an Amarna period of Nefertiti being portrayed.
She looks damn near no different from Akhenaten. Okay, she has the same features as Akhenaten. Okay, which is full lips. Okay, mahogany skin color. Okay, and in a more broader nose.
Hang on, are we looking at the same image? Because I am getting two completely different skin colors for both of these people.
Okay, first of all, the image, the Nefertiti has no color at all.
Yes.
Okay, it
So
has no color at all.
okay. So
Let me address the thing that he said about the um Nefertiti looking similar to Akhenaten. Yes, and that's why images like these have been thrown in the androgynous section. Like, oh, we don't know if this is Akhenaten or Nefertiti. Could be either of them. And remember, Akhenaten and Nefertiti's stuff were broken and all of that because they were so against that whole Aten thing they were doing, trying to make the sun god the primary god. The Egyptians just weren't going for that, which might have led to the invention of monotheism. Well, it was monotheism, but it might have led to the invention of modern monotheism, which is interesting because that means Egypt has got its arms everywhere.
you admit
Okay.
that you were full of shit when you said that she had mahogany skin color in my comments. I can bring up the image of the comment where you specifically.
No, that is not the image. That is not the image I'm talking about. Okay, I'm
Okay,
just
so
showing you
why
the
did you
image.
give
I'm
us-
just showing you the image of showing her facial features. Okay, I mean that has nothing to do with the image that I was talking about with mahogany skin color.
You
Okay,
said,
like I said,
and
I'm
I
having a hard.
quote,
Why is she being so bratty? He literally said that's not the image that he was talking about. This is just showing the facial features of Nefertiti.
hang on. The most original and accurate image of Nefertiti's is from her tomb wall reliefs that show here as a mahogany skin color and thick lips. So are we talking about more than one image or multiple images? We are talking about multiple images?
Well, he is. Okay. Yeah.
Because if you wanna-
I'm
if
trying
you
to find
wanna-
that image. Okay. Because I mean, that is not the only image of her. Okay?
No, of course not. I
There are
actually
plenty
have one.
images of her. Okay, and I'm telling you that there are some that shows her skin color.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's apparent that that you never took the time to you never took the time out to research it.
He is 100% accurate. First of all, why is she on this undying mission of him pulling it up? You pull it up. You pull up the image of Nefertiti because it's out there. You never did never took the time to do the research. You made a video on something where you just were talking straight out of your behind and made all these claims. You have no idea.
I did.
I mean, so you
wanna look at the
you pretty much getting engaged into an argument that you know absolutely nothing about.
I know absolutely nothing about it. Okay. Do you want to?
Yeah, because I mean, when I who was the first pharaoh of Egypt, you didn't know. Okay, and that's why
I'm not talking about the
that's why
first
you
pharaoh of
speak
Egypt.
the ignorance that you do because you
Notice how she's got the Nefertiti stuff pulled up already.
do not know.
I was talking about Nefertiti in the 18th dynasty. I was not talking about the first pharaoh of Egypt. I could give a about Nefertiti. My entire video centered around Nefertiti, and then I digressed into the diversity of Africa as it is today and in ancient history. I never said, "Oh, the first pharaoh of Egypt is
It's
not
about
black."
Nefertiti. Okay, it's about
This is
Egypt.
about Nefertiti.
It's so awful that he interrupted her, though, because she said, I did not say that the first pharaoh of Egypt was not black. If you rewind, you will hear her say it. She's pretty much given up the idea that the native Egyptians were not black. He has won, and they're basically agreeing aggressively right now. This is why in debates you have to slow down and let the other person talk so they can rope themselves.
About Africa.
My video, the one that you
It's
took
bigger
issue
than
with,
Nefertiti.
the one where you called me a cave beast mutant dog.
Oh.
That's what we were talking about. This is where
Yes.
this whole thing started. I don't give a
Like one, I wouldn't have to call you one.
Why did you
If I
call
would-
her a cave beast
beast?
dog?
if I were to stop acting like one. Exactly what does
Because
a
you said a
cave
lot of
beast
derogative.
look like?
You said a lot of derogative
If he called her that, I don't agree with that. I disavow that. But she did say a whole bunch of stuff as well.
things on that video about black people.
Like what? What did I say? You did make a claim that I was racist.
Bibo,
I
did you
wanna
say
hear
the
it.
N word?
No, I didn't.
Video? No,
I did not
okay,
say the
sorry.
N-word on my
I was
video.
just making sure.
What did I say?
Notice, by the way, how they pulled up this image on the screen. I wonder if they're going to talk about it at all. because that's the interesting part. You pulled out this image that clearly shows what you said you wanted to find. So now you're more interested in debating this small little thing. But okay.
That was
I'm sure you wanted to.
Racy. What did I say?
You're sure she wanted to? Like you
know exactly what goes on in my head when I'm making a video?
On the tip
What a shame. They literally pulled out the video, the picture, and it was gonna answer this question that they wanted. But then they realized, like, wait a minute, that's Nefertiti and Akhenaten. Let's run away from that. You see how quickly they pulled it off the screen? Every other image they kept on the screen for a long time. Now they're like, go, leave it, get it off the screen quickly. And again, I don't think they're going to address it after that, by the way, even though she was like, you said the whole video. She said that you said you're going to pull up this image that shows this. Okay, well, now y'all put it up. Keep it on screen. Let's see you talk about it.
You can go back and look at the video yourself and see what you said.
I have the script.
I don't have to repeat it to you.
I have the exact script. Would you like to read it, Andy? Because I can give it to you.
No, I believe you. Okay. What did you find offensive in her thing? I'm in her video that made it sound like she was about to say the N-word or wanted to.
Wow. Talk about going everywhere but home. This is just pointless. This is just useless. Also, the fact that they're not being, somebody from their side should be, wait a minute. These guys are supposed to be moderators, by the way. I know you guys don't, I didn't mention that part. These guys are supposed to be moderating the chat. They're not supposed to be debating, and they're debating him.
I mean,
like, what was something that you were like right now?
Well, first of all, if she had said the N-word, her video probably would have been taken down. So
I have the
I'm sure script. If we were somewhere all alone where nobody else was around, yeah, I believe she'll say it.
I have this.
You think if you were like in a room with her alone, she'd say it, but just
yawn. What the hell is this conversation now?
Not online?
Yes, exactly.
Oh, are you thinking of saying the N-word?
No, I'm thinking of calling this a delusional nitwit.
Yeah, you speak for yourself.
You're the one who has assurances in your own head that I would say something. You don't know me. You've never met me. You've never interacted with me except for in the comment section of my video, in emails, and within that single video. Unless you've watched other videos, in which case, there you go. Good for you. But you don't know me. You don't know anything about me. So how can you definitively say that I was so eager to say the N-word while I was filming my video or editing my video or scripting my video? Not once.
So you mean to tell me that the person you are on your videos is not you?
The person I am in my videos is me.
So I mean,
so what about me?
Okay.
In my video makes you think that
I'm watching the video and that's you, and you saying I don't know you. I mean, that means you're putting on the front. That means you're a fake.
No, what I'm saying is you don't know me or what goes on in my head except for what you see in my videos. And what I said in my videos is exactly what I act like in real life. Did I say the N-word?
I don't know much about you. I mean, I know you're racist.
Okay, prove it.
Because only your racists say we was kings and all that nonsense. Okay.
Okay. How does that
in saying that the ancient Egyptians were not black and not African. I mean,
no, I didn't say they were not African. I said they were of mixed national origin because it's true.
He literally said it. Her saying we were kings and all of that—that's the racism part of it. But again, this part is so boring and generic, and who cares? They brought up the image. They panicked. They made the conversation generic, as they always do. This is them throwing in the towel.
They were invaded, or didn't you bring that up earlier? They were invaded, right?
You can't prove that.
I can't prove that they were invaded.
Let me make it clear to you, because you are not talking about historical reality here. Okay?
I'm not talking about historical reality.
Okay, wait a minute. Are we talking about Egypt and Africa? Are we talking about Egypt and Africa, or are we talking about Egypt and Sweden or somewhere?
No, we're talking about the Egypt and Africa. And my entire statement revolved around the fact that Egypt was diverse on the simple basis of the virtue of the fact that they had been interacting interculturally around the Mediterranean region with other people.
That's the fake Egypt you're talking about. Okay, that's not the real Egypt.
That's not the real Egypt?
That's not the real Egypt. No, that's a fairy tale Egypt.
What are we talking about? Which Egypt?
When we deal with the real Egypt, the first invasion of Egypt was from the south. Okay, was the founding dynasty. Okay,
current day Egypt is not real Egypt.
The Egypt you're talking about is not real Egypt.
Which Egypt am I talking about?
He's saying that the facts you're bringing is a story tale. That's what he's saying. He's not contesting the geographical position.
Okay.
There's no such thing as a multiracial. Egypt was African. It was black African. Okay. the founders of Egypt came from the south of Egypt. They came from the southern Nile Valley.
Okay,
That
I'm
was
not
the
talking
first
about the
invasion
very first.
that gave rise to Egypt. Then after that came the Hyksos. The Hyksos were from the Middle East.
Okay,
Okay,
we're talking
that was
about-
the second historical invasion.
I think
Okay.
we're talking past each other here because I never actually mentioned the very first Egyptians. I said ancient Egyptians, which is a very expansive amount of history. If you don't know, about 3,000 to
Yes, which you know none of.
which I know none.
Okay, which you know none of. Okay, because you're not talking about the real Egypt. Okay,
I'm
you're
not talking about the real
this
Egypt.
diverse Egypt that never existed.
Never existed.
It never existed.
Okay.
By the way, the reason why I'm not jumping in is because they're basically rehashing the whole conversation.
Okay, when we deal with Egypt from the first dynasty, okay, to the what should I say, from the first dynasty, okay, to the okay, from dynasty 1
I don't
to the Syrian invasion.
About the first
Okay.
dynasty. I was talking about the 18th dynasty, and we were talking about
Yes.
ancient Egypt, which expands, as I said, a
Yes,
great
the
number
18th
of years.
18th dynasty was not a multiracial dynasty. Okay,
Are you
it was
talking
an
about
Egyptian dynasty. It was an African Egyptian dynasty. So
Okay.
I don't know what you're talking about with this multiracial nonsense.
The history
Okay.
of Egypt spans a great many thousand years, Radio 1. So are you discounting?
I'm only talking about the 18th dynasty, but the Egyptian dynasties go over thousands of years. Which one is it? He literally said he doesn't believe the 18th dynasty is diverse. So that's where your problem is. Go pull up that image that you are about to pull up until you realize, like, uh-oh, this goes completely against what I was about to say. And then you pulled it away from the camera.
A certain point in time after the fact, or what? Because my concept of ancient Egypt spans maybe 1,000 to 2,000 to 3,000 years ago. I can't put an exact date on it, but I would say that 18th dynasty, 25th dynasty, and even the 31st dynasty is pretty ancient.
But all you say is based on theories. Okay,
Based
now
on
we know
theory,
for-
but
no, no,
we're talking about historical sources, right?
I mean, she didn't even know about the facts of the Amarna period, which she's trying to talk about.
Okay, I'm going to distinguish fact from theory.
And
Now we
what-
know that the 18th dynasty originated in Thebes, okay, in the city which is known as Waset, okay. Waset was the
Okay.
city of Thebes, okay. They were a native Egyptian dynasty from Thebes, okay.
Okay.
Their ancestors did not
Pay attention to her body language. She was in front of the camera, ready to pounce, like, oh yeah, I've got him. I'm about to say these crazy things. And then all of a sudden, it went another way because he started pulling up facts about the very period that she's concerned about. And then all of a sudden, she's like leaning back and putting her hand on, like, oh, I'm bored right now. Wow. Wow. What a terrible display.
come from the Middle East.
Okay.
Okay, it did not come from the Mediterranean.
Okay.
Okay, that's what you have to understand.
Okay.
Okay, they were a native African Egyptian dynasty. Okay, and so far as them having some Middle Eastern bloodline, they never mention it. Okay,
Okay.
so when you mention it, it's based on theory. It's not a fact. It's just a guess.
She made another mistake, which is she thought he wouldn't know anything about the 18th dynasty. As soon as he starts mentioning details about the 18th dynasty, then all of a sudden she's back to okay, back to that trolling. Now that every time he addresses the thing that she asks in particular, okay, you want to know about the 18th dynasty? Let me tell you the information. Now she's back to trolling again. Before she went silent. The other time she was like, I'm going to pull up the image. She pulls it up and goes completely against what she wanted. So she puts it down. Now she's back to trolling. Why? Why can't you just accept defeat?
Okay. So all of those invasion events and migration events and trading throughout the Mediterranean region, that's just a theory. So they were never invaded then? Because to
If it's not
insinuate,
documented, it's just a theory.
okay,
So I believe that she actually had no idea what he was talking about in the other times. This time I really believe she has no idea. He's literally saying that the idea, the concept that the people from the Amarna period came from the Middle East is a theory because the people in the Amarna period consider themselves native to Egypt in a specific location and all of that. This idea, this concept that they came from the Middle East is a modern theory. And then she's not understanding that when he's saying theory, he's not saying everything is a theory. He's saying that the things that are written down, you might call them theories if you want, but they at least have documented evidence. It's like if you pull up, Greek people saying that they came from this town and moved here. And then in the modern day, they say, actually, we've looked at things and theoretically, they actually came from a different spot. It's not documented, it's theorized. Two different things, very simple.
Events just a theory. So then the Hyksos never invaded, the Persians never invaded, because they're just theories, right?
No, that's documented.
That is documented.
That's
Okay.
documented. Okay,
So-
but no. You're missing the point here. Okay,
Okay.
the Hyksos invasion, and the Persians and all that.
Okay.
Yes, they invaded Egypt, but guess
Okay.
what? They were not Egyptians. That's what you.
I'm
that's what
aware.
you're not understanding.
But do you
Okay,
know
and
what
they did not
happened?
have Egyptian descendants.
Okay.
Well, if you're aware, then why would you think that Nefertiti would be a foreigner? The people who were foreigners said they were foreigners. They had foreign names. They had foreign, everything about them was foreign. Then even the Nubians, even some of them who even were dominated, Taharka, all these names, these are very different names than what you would get in Egypt proper. Do you not understand that that's what he's trying to say?
So hang on.
Making no
So,
sense.
when a Hyksos invades Egypt, right, and they tend to settle down in that area, maybe, I don't know, find a baby mama in Egypt who happens to be native Egyptian, and they have a kid together, that kid is not Egyptian then?
What the hell is she talking about? Also, by the way, pull back this image that you had on your screen that would prove that Nefertiti was covered in brown in some of her images. In fact, in all of her images except one, which is the bust.
Well, first of all, the
Are you
Hyksos.
saying that they didn't intermingle with the races? Because that sounds like what it is that you're saying.
Well, we really can't tell. So I mean,
So-
but what we do know is that the Hyksos dynasties, when they came into Egypt, okay, they were all succeeded by when the Hyksos kings ruled Egypt. Okay, all their successors were Hyksos or Asiatics, just like them. Okay, there was
Okay.
never so that right there clearly shows you that the Hyksos rulers and Hyksos people that were in Egypt, okay, pretty
Okay.
much did not mix with the Egyptians. They kept their dynasty within their own bloodline. Okay, and that's another point. Okay, that's another point that you fail to miss when we deal with.
I don't know what the hell is inside her that's making her act like a toddler. She literally asked the question. This guy's educating her on a topic that she was talking about. He's literally telling her. She asked the question, are you saying that they didn't mix the Asia? And he's literally answering it. And now she's like, okay. Like she's acting like a child again. Why? That's what you wanted. You wanted an answer. Whenever he answers the questions, she acts like a child. Whenever he doesn't answer the question, she's like, oh yeah, I've got you. What is this?
Ancient Egyptian royalty and bloodline. I mean, the kingship. Okay, they kept it within the family. Okay?
I'm aware
They
of
kept it
that.
within the family.
But
Okay,
we're not
so
talking
they-
about Egyptian pharaohs. We're not talking about that diversity of Egypt. Unless you're saying that the only Egyptians that counted were the royalties. That's a little bit, I don't know, classist of you, isn't it?
Oh my god, this is so mind-numbing. Okay, so let's do it again, guys. Let's calculate it one spirit at a time. Let's do it. So she says the only person she was concerned about was Nefertiti. The only dynasty she was concerned about was the 18th, and she literally squeezed it to the kings of that era. And then she said the Hyksos came in and blah blah blah. He gives the answer, and now she's saying, actually, let's focus on every single individual. You said your video was just about Nefertiti. Why is it now just generic Egyptians and whether they mixed as well? And now pulling out classist and all of this. Why you act like a victim? This whole thing, they lost a long time ago. And I'm not even saying, by the way, I could defend this position easier. I could easily come back with all of this stuff and defend it easier. But it's funny how, again, by the way, nothing wrong with her not knowing the information. She could have said, you know what, I need to do much more research on this. Clearly, I underestimated you and I overestimated my knowledge on this. So I'm going to come back and check. Instead, they use every tactic in the book. Now, to be fair, this is not the other guys. The other guys clearly at this point have checked out of the conversation.
hold on.
When I was talking about the diversity of Egypt, I was not exclusively referring to the royalty of Egypt. No, I was talking about the common men, the people. Okay, you've conflated both of my points into one.
So when you're talking about the common men, was it the common men of one dynasty? Because he did try and talk about the diversity or the common people in Egypt in general, and you were like, no, I'm only talking about Nefertiti. Now it's back to, come on, stop.
Gigantic ass point, which is unfair to me because now we've just wasted a whole bunch of time talking past each other.
When we deal with the common people, okay, they were the same people as the royalty. That's what you have to understand. Okay,
no, they weren't.
The ancient Egyptians. Okay. So you're trying to tell me that from what we see on the tomb, a group of say like the image from tomb of Rekhmire or tomb of Sennacherib. Okay, you have these Egyptians. I'm gonna tell you how they clearly look. Okay, they are depicted as dark reddish brown color. Okay, and they have this some of them have braids in their hair and all that, but they have and you look at King Tut and all the rest of them, they look the same. Okay,
we're talking about King Tut versus the royalty. Or we're talking about the common man versus the royalty.
Yes, the common man versus the royalty. Okay,
that's actually
but let's to make an argument short. Let's just make this clear. Okay, there was never a pharaoh sitting on the throne that looked like Osama bin Laden. Okay.
Oh my God, this guy went that far. This guy went that far. By the way, notice how she said, I want the common man. Again, he's about to give her the common man, and she interrupts again because that's what she does.
Make an argument short. Let's just make this clear. Okay. There was never a pharaoh sitting on the throne that looked like Osama bin Laden. Okay. Or that looked like some Arab from the Middle East. Okay. That's what you're trying to say. You're trying to say that the ancient Egyptians were the Middle Eastern looking people, but they were not. Okay. You're full of you know what when you say that. Okay. So just be real about it and just say that they were brown skinned African people instead of saying that they were these Arab looking people.
Hey.
Yep. That point is taken. I mean, he didn't have to pull up that leader for context, but I guess he did it. I guess that was just pure frustration. I noticed that everybody laughed as well in the video. No, nobody looks like the Middle Easterns in ancient Egypt. Not the way that the Middle Easterns portray themselves in almost all their images.
Andy, can you like
Yep. Present you?
Yeah, present me. Those are lamenting women from the 18th dynasty, the normies, essentially, the people who weren't royalty.
So she gave up on trying to make the ancient Egyptians not the pharaohs and the queens not brown, because clearly when she pulled out this image, she ran away. Now she's pulling a different image. The image that she was going to pull, usually they're patient and they show the images later, but the images they're going to pull, run away from that one because it debunks what you're going to say. And she says, these are the normies. Actually, no, these are women tied to religion. That's why they're praise singers or whatever you want to call them, or praise dancers. They're not necessarily normies. Also, they're all female. You'll recognize that part. And yes, females did have a part where they were portrayed in yellow, which, if you notice, is the same yellow that was used for males in the Middle East, which is why it would be weird to portray that same yellow to the men of Egypt when warriors in the Middle East are portrayed with yellow. And also to mention that that yellow could simply represent light-skinnedness, although it usually represents femininity.
That's from the cave, the tomb wall of Ramos. And you want to tell me that they look dark reddish color?
Well, those are the women. Okay. Now we know from ancient Egyptian history that that the pharaohs took a lot of women from Asia and brought them in as concubines.
Okay. Hang on. I got something even better for you.
I don't even agree with what he was about to say, that they took concubines from Asia and all of that necessarily. I mean, they did, but I wasn't even going to agree with that. I mean, the reason why you can see they're praise singers, the reason why they're yellow is because it has to do with religious scene as well. But notice how even when she heard that he was about to give an answer, she was like, no, okay, let's just move on to the next subject. So, what do you mean? You gave him the picture. You said react to this picture. He said like a sentence, and then you ran away from it immediately.
So while we both searches for our image, I will read a super chat. Dan Yasia, $20 US, says, there is a parallel story to the alt-right joining up with Kangs when Egypt was taken over by the Hyksos. They fled to live with the Nubians, built an army, then returned and expelled the Hyksos.
Ignoring that troll comment, notice how the ancient Egyptian women who are praising are different color from the rest of the men, showing that it's not a racial thing. If it was racial, they'd all be the same skin color, because of course, like I said before, men aren't black and then women are white. That never happens. That makes no sense.
All right, Andy.
And then after I'll read that really big super chat from Garm. But for now, let's Weebo, tell us what we're seeing. I'm still presenting you, by the way.
You are still seeing the 18th dynasty funeral procession tomb of Ramos TT55 of the Vizier of Imhotep III. Now you will see that these are lamenting women who are essentially wailers, the mourners. And then we have a whole bunch of other members of the normie population, essentially, more normie population, because I don't think the royalty would actually hold up. I think that's a sarcophagus, religious symbols and such. We have more normies over here. So you cannot tell me that they were all the same exact color based off of this graphic here from the tomb of Ramos. Can you?
Well, I'm not saying that they were all the same color. I'm saying the majority of them were of one typical color. Okay,
I'm looking at it right here, and it doesn't.
Let's make a distinction here. Okay, when we deal with the Asiatics, okay, we know that most of them are somewhat light brown. Okay, and some of them are white, some of them are dark brown, but most of them are light brown. Okay, and when you deal with the ancient Egyptians, okay, most of them were dark reddish brown. Some were light skinned. Some were okay. And when you deal with the Nubians, they show the Nubians. Most Nubians were jet black, and some were brown skin. Okay,
but they didn't get they were diverse in their presentation of skin tone. So can you definitively, distinctly tell me exactly which person is from where based on their skin tone? Exactly where they're from? Can you tell me exactly where someone is from based on their skin tone? Exactly what country and exactly what, section of the world they're from? Not today, maybe back then.
Well, if you were white Caucasian, okay, and if you was not albino, okay, then more likely you came from the northern regions of Russia and northern Europe and all that area, because that was a land where where the sun didn't shine at, okay, and if you were black and melanated brown, you came from the southern interior regions, okay, where close to the equator, okay. But
again, notice how he always directly attacks exactly what she said. Obviously, it's an important point to bring up that none of the Egyptians look white like white people look, which is interesting. But moving on from that, there's something that she said. She said they show diversity in skin color. That's not what she was talking about earlier. When she said diversity, she meant diversity in race, meaning that they were from Asia. And I mean, she literally said it. She said Asia, Greece, all these places. Diversity in skin tone is something completely different.
So we have, okay, so to make the distinction here, okay, I'm telling you that the ancient Egyptians, okay, you say that they were not jet black Nubians, okay, they were not Middle Eastern looking, okay, and they were not white European looking, okay. When you take all that away, what? Okay, when you take all that away, what do you get? Okay?
Tan, fucking tan. That's what you get.
No, you get the people of Ethiopia, the Horn of Africa, okay, African Americans, okay, people that's in the middle of the blackest of black Nubians in the tan or light brown Middle Eastern type, okay. See, but you guys want to play these tricks and make this type of illusion, okay, that the ancient Egyptians were these Middle Eastern looking people and these white Aryan looking people. In
she still can't appreciate what he's saying. Also, pull back the image that you pulled up in the beginning.
Truth is, they were not. Okay.
I never made that argument. I made the argument that Egypt was diverse.
Yes, you did. I heard you in the video. You said they were Middle Eastern look.
No. I said they were a mix of various different backgrounds from around the Mediterranean. And you know what? When you mix races, sometimes you get weird. That right? And so
this argument is ridiculous. I mean, it's so simple. Okay, it's so simple. I mean, the facts are there.
Yeah.
Okay, the facts are there. Because you people just can't.
Just flip-flopping the whole time, changing the goalpost, saying anything at any time, running away from factuals, even pictures that they pulled up personally. We know what's going on.
So someone in the West raises an interesting hypothesis concerning the picture we've just seen. He says those were just Asian. Could we agree on that, or is that like a middle of the way agreement that we could reach?
They're just Asian what? Well, that's.
I know a few of those.
Just disrespect after disrespect for every race, everybody, every section, sexism, everything they're just throwing into one bucket and then pretending to be victims.
I mean, whatever floats your goat, man.
You know what I mean? That radio.
Yeah, I mean, there is evidence that of Asian women coming. So it's really hard to say if they were light-skinned Egyptians or if they were Asiatics living in Egypt. So, I mean, That's that's a really hard argument. But the point is, the ancient Egyptians clearly depicted themselves as looking one way. Okay, that's the fact. I mean, that's the point that I'm making.
Okay, so there's one more part of this video left, but I'm going to cut it over here because this is an extremely long version. This is partially due to the super chat, so you can thank Muntu and the other person who donated. Thank you very much. Like, share, subscribe.